What do you get when you mix a health coach and a wellness coach mixed with a lot of curiosity? You get two people who ask a lot of questions about health and wellness. Today we ask, can food really be medicine?
We talked to Brooke and Matt, who started out changing their own lives and now have started helping others improve their health. So let's get started as we ask.
Wait, what?
Hi, Leah.
Hi, Kamna.
I cannot wait to really dive into the topics today that I think we're going to talk about. But, as we don't know where it's going to go.
I can't wait to interrupt 100 times because well, you're prepared and I'm not. So this will be exciting.
Be fun. Well, welcome, Brooke and Matt.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Excited to be here. Wait, what?
Wait, what? Yes. What? Yeah. All right. So come introduce them to me.
Oh, yes, I need to.
Besides their names.
Tell you who they are.
Besides their name.
So Matt and Brooke are partners in life, business, and love, and they've co-founded a community and movement called the Rise to Thrive Tribe. Rise to Thrive is founded on the pillars of vitality, connection, and play. And with Matt's background in coaching and Brooke's expertise in nutrition, they have joined forces and guide holistic lifestyle transformation with a focus on cellular detox, organic superfood nutrition, and gut repair. They are on a mission to empower as many humans as possible to reclaim their health in a holistic way and to help people remember the joy of being human through connecting in community and fortifying the mind, body, and spirit.
Wow, that is a lot right there. I wrote down cellular detox and gut repair. Those were like just the first things that I jotted down.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you reminded me because I did want to read that, and it's much more than that, but at least that's a highlight.
Okay, so where did you guys meet?
We met in the deserts of Sedona, Arizona, actually.
Really?
Yeah, just over a year and a half ago.
Okay, like you were
Oh.
both on separate trips and you just...
Yeah, we like to say that we met at Consciousness Camp out in the desert where we come and we gather and we play and we create and we live on the land for 2 weeks and we have a communal kitchen. We do men's work, women's work, unity work. And yeah, we like to say that we also met on the playground, and that's kind of where our love began, and we nurtured that. And that's why our pillars are really founded in connection, vitality, and play, because that was really what was fully embodied when we met together.
It was I wanted, for lack of better terms, for me, like a retreat that you both were at and met there.
Yeah, it's more of an intentional gathering than like a small offshoot of a community called Fit for Service. I don't know if you've heard of Fit for Service or Aubrey Marcus. He founded it. It's really a community rooted around getting people to a place where they're fit to be of contribution in the world. And it attracts all sorts of impactpreneurs, people who want to make a difference in the world. And this camp called Soul Rising was birthed as a way for some people who are attending those summits for Fit for Service to camp and gather and have some other additional opportunity to connect and to develop themselves and to grow and to do some healing work. So I think I showed up in the third year running, right? Second or third year?
Third or fourth year.
Yeah, third or fourth year. I was just the solo Canadian traveler who was on a 6-month road trip, and I was at the tail end of my journey throughout the States when I met somebody who invited me, and I had no idea what I was stepping into. Boy,
Really?
a beautiful blessing and such incredible people there.
Wow.
That was a really pivotal moment in your life then.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, because we literally aside from four weeks apart, we've been full tilt together, traveling and working and playing and just living.
Wow.
Ever since. Yeah.
So Brooke, was that how many have you been to?
That was my third. Yeah, that was
Okay.
my third year. And that was one of the most transformational gatherings for me. And I made a commitment that I would be back every single year, other than last year for a very specific reason why we couldn't make it. But it's really, it's all of our soul family, our tribe, but there's just something really, really special about the people that attend that. And so it's our kind of core community that we're going to go to it again this year. It's going to be in North Carolina this year. So we're pivoting with that, and new lands, new humans, and new van, hopefully.
Good. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a quote on your email that I really wanted to start with. It says, pay the farmer now or pay the pharmaceutical company later. Did I get the quote right?
You did. Yeah. It's been
Okay.
a little bit of an evolution. I've been playing around with either the pharmaceutical companies or the doctors. Pay the farmer now or the doctor later, which ultimately leads to pharmaceuticals for the most part.
Why is this sort of your tagline, I guess, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, I mean, nutrition is my background, and I really had this strong desire to learn food as medicine. I took my first nutrition class in high school and then went on to study it in college. And then I was really immersed in the Western medical world. So I was on a path to becoming a clinical dietitian, thinking that my work would be a bit more valued. And I saw everything that I needed to see in the hospital setting. I was working for a dietitian. I was doing all the patient meals, and I was pretty appalled at the food system, that this was our healthcare system, which I like to call our sick care system now.
Yeah.
You know, it's the business of keeping people sick. And then I also worked for a doctor at the time as well, pediatrician. So I kind of got a full experience of what it's like to be in the Western world. And it was not what my soul was yearning for. Like, I wanted to learn how to support people with the food, with the plants, with all the phytonutrition that comes from our earth and our soil. And my education really fell short of this. And it was really important for me to go through this process to see what wasn't working, to be able to pivot and to know, like, hey, I'm actually here. I want to support people before they get to this point of not no return. We believe that everyone is regenerative beings and can heal themselves from anything and come off of these medications. But so often people are so far, like steeped in this Western medical system on handfuls of pharmaceuticals that it takes a lot more to turn their lives around and get back to living with the rhythm of nature. And that's really what it's all about, is getting back to connecting with our earth, to eating real food, to nourishing our cells in a way so that we can really thrive. And that's the foundation of what we've created, is helping people to really thrive in their lives, not just merely survive.
Wow. Okay, so two things. One, the first thing I wanted to say is, if you think hospital food is bad, you should see school lunches. I'm a lunch lady. It's sick. It's disgusting. There is some food that I won't even eat, and I serve it because we have to. It's appalling. Anyway, the second thing I want to say that you said was, you guys really believe everyone there can reverse their health? Really?
Yes. Wow.
Everyone? Really?
Why would anybody be an exception?
I don't know. Like, to me, like, I just think this is very judgmental of me, but I know people that I'm like, oh, I don't know if they'll ever, like, and I personally think that it's more mental for them.
Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. That's
Like,
where
they
it really
don't want
is
to give
rooted.
up eating X, Y, or Z, so they don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so much of this is rooted, it starts in the mind, right? It starts in these belief patterns, these emotions that are stored in the body, right? And then that manifests as these physical ailments. And then they self-soothe to deal with that and make them feel comfortable. And then it just perpetuates this cycle. So it really starts with the belief. And that's what I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about that, but that's what our coaching program and our guidance and our containers are really about, is redefining one's relationship to food so that you start to open your mind up to the possibility that you can actually heal yourself.
And believing you can do it.
Which you can't do without the belief. If you don't believe you can do it, you'll never do it.
Oh, I love that you just said that. You have to believe it. And there's 90% of people I know don't believe they'll ever be able to do it.
Yeah.
Well, if you believe it, then you have a greater motivation to really make the change, I think.
There's a book by Joe Dispenza called You Are the Placebo. And it's a powerful concept for many to get if they haven't encountered that and think that that's kind of woo-woo. But really, we are very powerful beings, and what we apply our mind to and our attention to is where energy will flow. And if we focus on the state of being whole and complete and being healed and thriving, then the universe is pulling together everything in accordance with that. Yeah. And the food is just a really fun way, and is a good, powerful reminder constantly of our beliefs, right? Like when we're putting something healthy in our body and we bless it and we put our intention into it and we express gratitude and we open ourselves up to fully receiving the nutrition from that food, there's so much more that gets to happen in that situation versus just mindlessly like scarfing down something in the car on the way to work. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Or before you join the podcast.
So, Matt, you were doing something completely different. Can you talk about your journey to getting to this point?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was somebody who, I grew up in a pretty strict household, military and police officer father, and my mom also worked. But, my father came from very humble beginnings. He was born in Morocco and didn't have a whole lot, before the age of 6. They were like quite poor. And, so he brought a lot of the discipline and, like reigned with that military edge at the household, you know? So it was like,
Mhm.
you got to get good grades, you got to take school seriously, you know, like you got to do something with your life. And I followed all the damn instructions, as I say, and got good grades, went to university, got a degree in engineering, graduated, and ended up working in my field as a civil engineer, both in private and public sectors. And I realized, you know, I was unhappy. I was just trying to climb the corporate ladder as quick as possible, you know, to make something of myself and get a better title, and get a better salary, because I was validating my worth inside of that. And at the same time, it was totally inauthentic. And, you know, I was
Yeah.
like dreading people asking me about the work I do, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't even want to talk about the work I do because it's so not something I'm excited necessarily about. It was just, you know, a paycheck, you know, kind of
You
thing.
both were like in soul sucking jobs, it sounds like.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it totally was. I was spending, you know, 38 out of the 40-hour work week behind a computer, you know, and I was just, I wasn't happy, and I was stressed, and there was a lot of politics, and I didn't really feel like I was making a difference. I was basically a glorified
Yeah.
paper pusher, as I say. And in the meantime, on weekends, I was chasing the mountains and spending my time in nature, because that's where I felt the most at ease, the most at peace, the most free. And, you know, if all of that wasn't enough to be carrying, you know, it was Christmas 2016. I found out my father was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, stage 4, and he was given a prognosis of 6 months to live, and completely shattered my world and our whole family's world. We're a very close family, and all of a sudden I had to make a pretty big decision of like trying to continue to hold up this inauthentic life on my shoulders while trying to be there for my father, my sister, my mother, but realizing like I was split, and my energy and attention wasn't fully in any of it. So I chose to step away, take a leave of absence from work, and be there for him, and make that time as magical as I could, as all of us could, for him and for all of our family. And that was when I found personal development, thank God, and started to actually go inward and look at my feelings and tell the truth about them, and gathering community and allies around me of support, and feeling like it was okay to receive support, you know, that I didn't have to do it all myself. And eventually I had to choose after my father inevitably passed away. I was like, do I go back to that life, or do I do something completely different? And I always wanted to make a difference. I always wanted to feel like my work was meaningful, and I love people. So I chose to forge my own path and figure out entrepreneurship, and bouncing around all sorts of different industries, eventually landing in coaching and realizing I had a strength and an ability to listen to people at a deep level, and have the superpower to help empower them into their dreams and into the things that are most important to them. So that's where I landed and found the most fulfillment. And then meeting Brooke, you know, I was like, holy crap, you know, she's so knowledgeable in the nutrition field, and has so much knowledge, and is so passionate about helping people. I was like, I have some ideas on how we can wrap a community around this, a program, and really make a big splash and a big impact. So we've been co-creating that ever since.
That's so cool. All right, come
That's
tell
very
more
cool.
what you watched.
So what I sort of want to start with how you changed your own health issues and then sort of go from there, because I think, Brooke, at least what I heard you were saying about how you had some ongoing issues that you sort of healed, and I would like to know more about that.
Yeah, so the great paradox is that as I was studying nutrition, I was in the worst health of my life, and I was going through a lot of gut issues, chronic digestive issues, just bloating constantly. I even had some really intense pain in my intestines, and was just a bit freaked out. You know, I was working for a doctor at the time, and they really couldn't support me. I was really let down by the Western medical system. I was going to multiple doctors, getting ultrasounds done, doing my best to figure out what the heck was going on inside of me. And so, yeah, I really kind of lost all my trust with the system, with the healthcare system, due to my own experience. And it really wasn't until my chiropractor back home, I'm from like kind of a small little hippie town in Northern California. And I went to my chiropractor, who also had studied women's health and hormones. She was really knowledgeable in nutrition and the physical body. And she was able to feel my, like, where I was feeling the discomfort in my body without me even saying anything to her. She's like, oh yeah, that's your ileocecal valve, what connects your small intestine to your large intestine. And I was like, wow, like no doctor could even tell me that, and I didn't even say a word. So I really started to get curious about these alternative forms, modalities, which are really our most ancient, modalities of health in our medical system. And so she really propelled me on a journey of, eating whole foods, and this being something that I could shift with my lifestyle. And also when I ended, university, a lot of it was really, I was highly inflamed I was still drinking and doing the college thing, going to school was really the perfect storm for ill health, not sleeping, partying, not taking care of my body.
Yeah, you got it all.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of the gut stuff did start to diminish when a lot of that stress was taken off. However, I was still struggling and still finding that every little thing I ate would cause me bloating. And it was just this great mystery. And it was really frustrating because it's like, oh, well, let's go on this elimination diet, eliminate this, and still feeling like nothing, like I couldn't pinpoint it, right? It wasn't necessarily the gluten. It wasn't necessarily, the dairy. It was just really challenging to figure out what it was. And I know so many people are struggling with that.
So the elimination diet didn't quote unquote work.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, okay, continuing on my journey really to understand what true health felt like in my body. And it's been, a journey of self-discovery. So one important factor was waking up to water, waking up to proper hydration. No one teaches you anything about this. We were not taught anything on hydration in my undergrad studies.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. So
Considering we're made up of how much water?
I mean, on a molecular level, like 99% or something crazy.
Yeah.
So I went on a whole water awakening journey, learning what true cellular hydration was. And most of us are chronically dehydrated.
What does that mean before you go on?
Yes.
What does cellular hydration mean?
That the water that we're drinking isn't actually getting into the matrix of our cells, which is crazy. So a lot of the water that we're drinking, if we're drinking tap water or even like reverse osmosis water, it's dead water. Like living water comes from like the curvature of the rocks and flowing water and negative electrons coming from the earth and the ions, and it's charged and it's alive and it's living. And so through our whole plumbing system and the way that we treat water and chlorinate water and add chemicals to our water, it basically makes it lifeless and it's unable to enter the matrix of our cells. And so we're just drinking what I like to say is dead water. And so there's an easy way to revitalize our water. There's so many different technologies. I mean, I woke up to one technology that entered my world, and that was like hydrogen water, which is amazing. And you can go down a whole rabbit hole of that. And just a simple thing of getting good, clean, pure water and remineralizing it with a good like ionic elements, some minerals, even some good Celtic gray salt is all it really takes to give it that charge so that it can enter into our cells.
So if you're talking to like an average person like me or Leah, and we don't live by a river or streams or, like we're in a suburb, you said the Celtic salt, but how do we get that back into our water?
Yeah, you can buy good Celtic salt online. There's a good company, that we've just found. What is it called?
Baja Gold.
There's a bunch of different, there's a lot of people doing tests and there's like heavy metals and things like that you have to look out for, but this company is doing it right and they're testing everything and everything's in balance. And so all you have to do is add like, a pinch of salt to your water. You could add a squeeze of lemon or lime and boom, there you go.
Does it taste salty?
Yeah, if you put enough of it, but you start to really like the taste of the salt.
Oh, really?
Actually. Yeah, at first it's kind of weird, but like, I don't know. It's grown on me for sure.
So when you drink, let's just say I'm drinking just regular distilled water or whatever, or it's not going into my cells. Where's it going?
It's just leaving your body. It's just going out. And then it's just slowing down. The water is everything. Everything is all of our metabolic functions in our body need water to carry them out. and the minerals, and minerals are so important too. And because our water is lacking those minerals, then where everything is just slowing down, our bodies are not able to process things as efficiently as they used to be. And then we're clogging our system up with all these chemicals that are in our air, water, and soil. So number one is proper hydration. And yeah, just starting with a good clean source of water, and then just getting a good salt, or, you know, a dropper of minerals that you can add, and just a squeeze of lemon or lime, and boom. Like, that's such a easy, accessible way that people can start to start thinking about hydration on that level. It doesn't need to be complicated.
Before you go down to number two, how much water do you think the average person should be drinking?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I'll let you answer that, but we're in Mexico right now, and we're really discovering the power of getting your hydration from food. So we've been eating so much fruit being here. You know, we go through a pineapple a day, multiple mangoes a day. Like, this wet fruit is so rich with water and hydration. And actually, it's also a structured water. It's actually the best way to hydrate is through food. And we get the privilege of drinking coconut water because there's coconuts that are abundant here, and that is a superfood in itself.
And another beautiful way that no one really talks about either is actually jumping in a living body of water. So we're blessed to be in the near the ocean right now, which is next level because it also has the salt that our bodies are yearning for, and we're absorbing it through our skin. So if you have a lake, a river, an ocean, just immersing yourself in a body of water like that is such a beautiful way to hydrate your cells as well.
Wow. Okay, so
you hate swimming in lakes?
I hate lakes.
Oh, you gotta find a good river.
I
Yeah,
can't
the
see the
rivers.
bottom.
I know. I feel that way about lakes too.
Yeah.
Find a good river.
Okay.
Moving water where you can see
That
the
I can
bottom.
do.
There you
Yeah,
go.
go on.
so what's number two?
And then waking up to superfood nutrition and detox, and learning about glyphosate and how this is completely wrecking havoc on our gut microbiomes and leaky
Okay,
gut
so
and causing.
wait, before you go
Yeah.
on, what is glyphosate? So just so people know.
Yes. So glyphosate, people may know glyphosate more as Roundup. So it's the active ingredient, chemical, also an antibiotic, anti-life, that is found in Roundup weed killer, which is sprayed worldwide. Like 5 billion pounds of this is sprayed on our soils worldwide. And it's starting to come out to be more understood as a highly toxic substance that is not only destroying, you know, our plants and our soil health, but is, when we consume it, it is destroying our microbiomes as well.
Wow. So wait, I have so many questions about this topic alone. So glyphosate, I know, is in a lot of our produce. How do we, like, if you're looking at, I know wheat is contaminated, and they do chickpeas, they use it to dry them, or there's other things that are contaminated. What should people be looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost unavoidable. Like,
Yeah.
don't want to bring the doom and gloom, but like that's kind of what we're highlighting with the educational piece of our mission. Like, the commercial farming practices, how most of our food is grown in that fashion, right? These seeds that are planted are actually Roundup ready seeds. So you're able to actually spray them with this chemical to keep the pests and the herbicides away, but it doesn't impact the actual plant that's growing. Right. So it's actually everywhere. And the whole idea is doing our best to buy organic, because I mean, it's not a perfect system, but going the organic route is going to be less likely to be sprayed. I mean, technically, legally, they're not supposed to be spraying it with any of those chemicals, but we know there's corruption everywhere, deceitful practices everywhere. But also there's something called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen for people who can't justify necessarily, aren't in a financial position to do all organic. There are certain foods that are better to be buying organic, and some that you can, you could get away with buying non-organic for.
So you're a fan of buying organic as much as you can.
As much as we can. And for people, you know, that do have access to farmers markets, getting to know your farmer, talking to them, asking questions, asking about their agricultural practices, things like that. I mean, I've been blessed to be on the West Coast, living in California and Oregon, where we have, you know, Portland has a farmers market every single day of the week. But I know that so much of the United States is food desert, and they don't have access to that. And our farmers, you know, that are growing these foods that are now, you know, subsidized to grow corn and soybeans and all this, they're the ones that are actually hurting the most when it comes to their financial stability and having access to real food. So it's such an interesting world where our farmers are the ones that are struggling the most, you know, and it's not easy. It's not easy for most of Americans to really be getting this high vibration, regenerative farmed food, because only 1% of all agriculture is farmed regeneratively, where 100 years ago, none of the land was sprayed, So it's unfortunate that is how far removed we've gotten from our food system. But right now, there really is a resurgence of coming back to living how our ancestors once did, and tending to the land in permaculture and regenerative practices, because we have about 50 to 60 soil cycles left if we continue farming with this monocrop chemical farming system that we've been doing.
So break that down a little bit.
Right. Break that down, and then let me write down my question so I don't forget.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge part of this. Like, we're talking about glyphosate as like the chemicals sprayed on the food.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But there's a whole other thing with the way that our farming practices are done right now, where they're constantly depleting the soil of nutrients. So the food that's actually growing there is actually way less nutrient dense, let alone by the time they truck it, across the country and it gets on the shelf, and then you take it home and it sits in your fridge. By the time you cook it or put it on your plate, it's almost empty of nutrition.
So wait, let me dumb this down for me. So let's say I buy broccoli. If it was grown in soil that isn't that nutrition filled, I don't know the word.
Yeah,
and then I eat it, I might not be getting full nutrition from that broccoli that the standards are.
Yeah, it's not the same broccoli that, your grandmother's grandma
because that soil is crap.
Exactly.
So when someone says we used to eat that, what's the problem now? You're saying this is what it is.
I can't say when they're like, I always ate that. Well,
Yeah. We live in a very different time than our grandparents, for sure, when it comes to our food system.
Yeah, and it's not their fault. I mean, most people are doing the best that they can, right? To make the healthiest choices they can. I mean, my mom was making us eat a carrot and a cucumber before dinner because we were super picky, you know what I mean? It was trying to get us to eat those vegetables. And, like most mothers who are like in charge of the food intake for the children in the home are like making the best choices that they can, not knowing that, they're not getting the same nutrients to their kids that maybe they got when they were kids.
Right.
That kind of thing.
So go ahead with the next part of your question.
No, you had a question.
Oh, yes, I did. Just so, again, plain so what you're saying is if I buy strawberries and I wash them, doesn't matter. It's still the glyphosate. Is that what it's called? It's
glyphosate,
still in that strawberry.
Yeah. You can't wash away the glyphosate because it's been grown with it. It's like literally in its DNA now.
I know. I'm trying to, go on.
Yeah. And just to put in perspective, a statistic that I heard that it takes about like 23 conventional carrots to be equal to one regeneratively grown carrot in nutrition, just for a little perspective.
23 carrots?
Yeah.
Regeneratively grown means from soil that isn't touched, like quote unquote bad.
So they're doing farming practices that are a lot smaller scale, are a lot more intentional, a lot more focused on regenerating the soil, not over extracting from the soil, cycling the crops, not just growing one crop, like all of these practices, such that the soil is actually rich and alive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so then go back to what you said. You said we're only 30 to 40 cycles of something along those lines, right? Am I right?
50 to 60 is more. Yeah. So
what does that mean?
So if we continue farming the way that we do with the monocrop chemical farming, where we're over-tilling the land, we're doing just rows of corn, just rows of soybeans for people that, need a visual of that. We are completely destroying the soil and causing the earth to become desertification. Am I saying that right? The soil becomes desert land where it's no longer able to provide nourishment to us. And so the 50 to 60 cycles is basically each year, right? Or each
year. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we're at right now, not to be like terrifying people or, like Matt said, the gloom and doom, because there is so much hope and there is such a movement happening right now of humans that are seeing this and that are taking action. And we'd love to share a great documentary, if you haven't seen it yet, for you and your audience, called Common Ground. And it is all about what's going on with our food system and the agricultural system and big pharma and big ag, and how it's all interconnected, and then showing how incredible it is and how the earth is so regenerative when we really tend to her and stop the spraying and stop the tilling, and how she can make such a comeback in a very short amount of time, and how we can implement this on a large scale. So there are farmers that are doing this on a large industrial level that are making profits, that are actually saving money and becoming profitable through regenerative farming. So they have tested it. It is not just on these small scale farms, but it can be implemented on a large scale, which is amazing. That movie and that documentary will give you so much hope. It's going to be really inspiring, really educational. And it's definitely a good one to check out.
Wow. I would love for you to go through some of the stats that you were talking about, the current system of health that's happening right now.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. I know they're a bit startling. But yeah, I'll just read a few off for you. So 74% of Americans are either overweight or obese. 50% of Americans have type 2 or pre-diabetes, and 33% of young adults have pre-diabetes. Young adult dementia has increased 3 times since 2012. 1 in 2 Americans are expected to have cancer.
1 in 2?
1 in 2.
I totally believe every single thing you just said. I totally,
Oh my gosh.
1 in 36 children have autism. And in California, that's 1 in 22. Fertility is going up 1% every year. 25% of men under 40 have erectile dysfunction. Men's testosterone levels have dropped about 1% per year since the 1980s. Autoimmune disease is going up 13% per year. Heart disease is the leading cause of death, and this is totally preventable. 25% of women are on SSRIs, which is for depression. And Alzheimer's is affecting 6.7 million Americans over age 65, and cases among the younger adults are rising. And now Alzheimer's is really referred to as type 3 diabetes, which is due to insulin resistance and poor diet. Again, something that is preventable. Girls going through puberty at a really young age these days, around like age 10, sexual maturity. Let's see, PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, is affecting 26% of women. Menopause symptoms are a disaster for women, and this is such an underserved and underrepresented demographic. And then around 70 million Americans are suffering from sleep disorders. We're sleeping now 20% less than we were 100 years ago. And sleep is one of the most important parts of our health. It's where we repair, it's where we regenerate, it's where our brain is detoxing. All of these things are happening in our sleep. And most of us aren't getting that good, deep, regenerative, restorative sleep.
And do you think a lot of this is from the glyphosate?
Definitely. A lot of chemicals. Glyphosate is just one, it's one that's really getting a lot of attention right now, but there are, multiple other chemicals and pesticides and toxins that are in, our household cleaning products, the dish soap, the laundry, it's in our clothes, the toxicity of wearing polyester and plastics, it's everywhere. And it's so hard to avoid it. And glyphosate is a water soluble toxin. So once it enters into the water system, it has been tested to be in every American that's been tested, it's been in their urine, and it's also in our rainfall. So it's really at that point where it is very difficult to avoid it.
So now that you've told us that everything is horrible and bad, what is the possible
Probably should have started here so we didn't
solution?
finish with the doom and gloom.
Yeah.
And what's the solution? Where do we go from here? What do we do?
Well, obviously, like Brooke was saying, buying organic, making relationships with your farmers is like the next step. Even better is like really get intimate with your farmers, try and buy as locally as possible, find out what their practices are, and get involved and start to influence and educate and have these conversations to shift the paradigm. Beyond that, if you can grow some of your own food, that's the next best thing, right? It's like if you can go and pick that tomato from your backyard and carry it in, like how much more nutrient rich is that when it comes right off the vine and you chop it up and it goes into your salad, right? So being able to do that. Detoxification is a really big part of this. Like our bodies are very intelligent and they will detox from these kinds of chemicals. But the problem is because there's such an increase of toxicity from all these different directions, like Brooke was saying, the water, the air, the soil, we're being bombarded, we're overloaded. We can't just rely on our body to do that because we're so bogged down. Like we need to start taking charge of daily detoxifying for ourselves, starting to remove these things from our environment as best as we can and partnering with our bodies to detox these things. And that's part of the journeys that we take people on, is showing them how to detox these chemicals and stay on top of daily flushing and releasing of all this toxicity, not just the glyphosate, but the heavy metals, everything.
The parasites, the candida. It's like when we're having all these cravings and these addictions, it's like, that's not actually the true you. that you're feeding. You're feeding these living organisms that are really just saying, give me that sugar, give me that processed food, you know? So when we really start to address these things and bring balance back into our microbiome, then all of those cravings and addictions start fading away, and we start wanting real food again, pure just fruits and vegetables, and you know, nothing that's packaged. So I think for someone that's like, where do I begin?
Right.
It's to avoid the packaged foods as much as you can. You know, when you're in the grocery store shopping around the edge of the store, buying things that are, you know, just in the produce section as much as possible, learning to read labels, knowing the big things to avoid, which is just any added processed sugars, the seed oils, things like canola oil. Rapeseed oil is also another name for canola oil. That's one of the worst ones. So looking to add in good healthy fats like, you know, grass-fed butter, coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil. Those things are a little bit better for our bodies. And then, yeah, just doing your really best to shop organically and from your farmer's market as much as you possibly can. And then finding little alternatives. Like there's so many ways that we can make that sweet treat. Like I'm such a dessert enthusiast. Like I love sugar things. I love cookies. I love baked goods. And there's so many things that nature provides us, like dates, you know, there's maple syrup, honey, just finding a good alternative and just starting to make little tweaks to your diet and knowing that you don't actually need to give things up. Like our philosophy is really subtraction by addition. So instead of somebody 180 changing their entire life, stopping eating fast food 3 times a day to cooking 3 wholesome meals, it's like, let's start adding in these high vibrational bioavailable superfoods. We work with superfoods mostly to help the body become more restored and detox the glyphosate and really give our body everything that it needs to self-regulate and self-heal. And then the body takes care of itself. And then you'll start noticing that you'll be reaching for, you know, the apple and the nut butter instead of the Oreo cookies or whatever it may be, that your entire palate will start to change by just adding these things in. You begin to change. So that's really our philosophy.
There's a huge movements in communities that are coming together to educate, to provide high integrity products and to teach and to share the wisdom of our ancestors on like, we got to learn how to do these things. We need to pass on the wisdom of how to grow food and, you know, these regenerative farming practices. Like it's something that blew my brain. When I saw that film Common Ground, I was like, everybody needs to know this. Like I'm ready to build an army leaving that theater and like rally the people, because this is so crucial and so important. And we're more busy than ever, you know, and we're just looking for that convenient, quick grab and go because we need to get back to our busy lives. But it's worth putting our time and attention into these kinds of things because it's going to improve the quality of our lives and the quality of our children and their children and beyond.
So the question that I would have, sorry, if I'm thinking about myself or some of my clients and they're like, well, I can't make a change, or I'm too old, or I'm set in my ways, what would you recommend as a first step?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, again, it's meeting people where they're at and asking them if they would be open to just adding something in, being like, hey, I know you love your ice cream and you have your routines and, you know, like you have your indulging things in the comfort and what feels good to you. Would you be open to adding some things in on top of what you're already doing? Because providing that, they're like, okay, yeah, let me give that a try. That is amazing damage control. That just helps them to be able to process things more efficiently, at least start opening up the detox pathways, giving them high vibe nourishment and nutrition that they're not getting. And that's really the first step, is just giving them a taste of that and allowing the things to start to shift gradually. And they will notice a difference and they will feel it and they will want to feel more of that goodness. And then just getting them plugged into, you know, getting them excited about like recipes and meals, because I know a lot of people struggle with that too, that they don't feel creative, that it needs to take time and all these things. And that's where we get to like get them excited and inspired and have fun in the kitchen and get creative and just kind of start feeding them more of that and encouraging them to create and cultivate a deeper relationship with food and even with the people in their lives, like coming together and being like, how about you have a once a week meal or potluck or something with the people in your community? Why don't you invite people over and all have a dinner together and everyone can make something and choose something that you can create together? The fact that you're even coming together and eating in community, even if that food isn't the healthiest thing, that right there is good for their health, is eating and being in community. So little things like that might be out of their thinking of what health is, there's so many ways of just getting them reconnected to community, to movement, to just adding a little bit of goodness into their body every single day, giving them like an alternative dessert recipe that they can make and start playing around and making tweaks. Like my mom is like obsessed now with making these like superfood donuts. Like she would make these donuts for us as kids, because they were healthier than going out and buying the donuts. And I started making these superfood donuts when I was visiting for the holidays, and now she's obsessed with it and is making them like every single week for her friends in her community and my dad, and showing people how is really important. If everyone could have us come and like live in and make them some things and be like, here you go. But once they have an experience with it, they can taste it, they can feel confident and competent in themselves. Like that is where the magic happens.
Okay. That's wonderful.
All right, so I have one quick question. What is your opinion on those hydro gardens? You know what I'm talking about, that you can like buy, and they're like some light thing, and you put I don't even know if there's dirt or anything.
Yeah.
I asked the same question.
Me too.
I'm not sure, because there is no soil with minerals to be going into that food. So unless the type of water that's circulating through that is rich in some type of minerals and vitamins, like it would be empty food as well, you would think.
Yeah,
I'm so intrigued on that. Okay, because our school just got a grant and they've got like 6 of them, and I'm like, that's really cool, but like I don't understand it.
Yeah,
we had eaten some of those. There's a salad in Epcot. There's a place that has hydro grown plant. I don't know what the word is, but they tasted amazing. I don't know what they put in that. They tasted amazing.
So I don't. Okay. So there's no real consensus on like.
There might be.
Yeah, we haven't
we
really
should look
looked
into that.
I'm afraid to look into it, because I'm afraid that the information you find is going to be from that company.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that company is going to be like, it's the best. It's more nutritious than anything. And it's like, where it's like very biased, what I've seen, in my opinion. And
you gotta go be the scientist and run some tests.
Right. And I have no idea how to do that. We're lucky I can wash my dishes, let alone do that kind of
I mean, we're pretty tapped into some very educated people in this like it's funny to say alternative health. This is the original health at the end of the day, but we can definitely put that question out to our community, and
I would love that. That would be cool.
What they're saying, what the consensus is on that.
Yeah. Okay, so my next question is, so Rise to Thrive Tribe, what exactly is that? Yeah,
so that's the community that Brooke and I founded around this kind of this intention and this stand that we have to have people live a more thriving lifestyle. Like so many people are depleted energetically and are, with COVID and everything, like separated, isolated, not happy, not fulfilled, working maybe a job that they don't enjoy, like don't really know how to break out of that cycle. That's why we created this community and this movement, and bringing vitality back to the human being so they have the energy to actually create things that inspire them. Teach them how to be more connected and how to have tools to connect with their fellow human beings, to connect with themselves deeper, to connect with a higher power, and to play more. Like that's a huge part that I feel like adults have been missing. It's like we take life so seriously. Like we can bring play and infuse it into everything. So this is it's really an intention. It's a movement. It's a way to bring people together that makes the nutrition even a little bit more approachable. Like you were saying, some people are set in their ways. It's like, well, if there's something fun happening over here with a bunch of like-minded people that are looking to better themselves and improve, step by step, marginally every day, like people want to be around that high vibration. Right. So that's kind of what we did and what we're creating. And we've been traveling all around, North America. We've been in Canada and in the United States. We've been down in Mexico. We're going back to the United States, and we're building community kind of all over and weaving it together online. But at the same time, we love to meet up in person, and we want to bring more people together in person to learn about these things. We're going to be going out to a community farm out on the East Coast of the United States, and it's Asheville, right?
Yep,
Asheville, North Carolina. There's some cool things, our inner circle is creating out there. We spent a bunch of time on farms in Canada, on the west coast of BC, on the island there, and just learning, being hands in the dirt and actually learning this stuff. And we want to bring more people out to do the same. Yeah, it's really a fun movement and a way to empower people to take charge of their lives and to stand for themselves, to live better. Like there's an opportunity to live better. It's
Yeah.
just here we'll start trickling you some information, bit by bit.
Mhm.
Soon enough, you're going to be making sourdough bread and tending to all of your chickens in your backyard.
Sourdough is a tough one. That's all I know.
Are you guys on Instagram or is it a website? Rise to Thrive Tribe. Both?
Yeah, you can
I
find us
will-
on Instagram
Okay.
at Rise
I will
to
post all
Thrive
the
Tribe.
links.
Okay.
Okay, all the links
Perfect.
in the bio,
Yeah.
yeah. And I've got
Perfect.
our link tree here in our name here as well.
Okay.
lnk.bio/Rise to Thrive Tribe with the number 2.
Okay. Sounds
And
good.
that's the best way to connect with all our resources and our social media and everything.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you. So great to meet both of you.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah, great to meet you too.